It is high noon in the financial capital of the world, and new questions about Treasury Secretary Geithner breaking in today's New York Post. Is the secretary and the old boy establishment standing in the way of Elizabeth Warren's appointment as head of the new Consumer Protection Agency? Hi, everybody. I'm Cheryl Casoni, and joining me for the entire hour today, I've got James Frischling, co-founder and president of NewOak Capital, and our very own Dunstan Prowl from FoxBusiness.com, star reporter. Sorry, forgot to get that in your title, Dunstan. You know, unfortunately, Phil Flynn, and I want you and Nicole to stay with me because James Frischling is with me. And James, unfortunately, that we keep getting this message over and over, that the economy is not strong, we're not seeing a recovery, we're still talking about the possibility of a double-dip recession, although slight. Not any conviction to buy stocks right now, zero that we're seeing.
And I guess I'll agree with the Gartman report, because I don't see any reason, besides the fact we're in the second half of August. Then you add in the battle between corporate earnings, which actually continues to be good, but the economic data, and specifically, I think the single largest issue continues to be jobs. It's what's being talked about. And initial jobless claims this week reached, I guess, increased to their back to their November high. And I think that is just incredibly, on the one hand, disappointing, but also not surprising, which is why I think just a lot of investors are going to remain on the sidelines.
Yeah, Dunstan. I'll tell you, it's true. September's going to be a very interesting
It is going to be interesting, and I think, you know, Nicole can confirm this. It's all about volume on the New York Stock Exchange and the stock markets in general, and the lack thereof. That's the real story. So when any news comes in either way, the markets jump in either direction. A week ago, or earlier this week, it was Home Depot. Some good news out of there. Markets jump up. Now we've got this bad labor news. Markets are down, but probably more than they would be if the volume wasn't so thin.
And you know,
there are a lot of factors playing into this story.
James, it sounds a lot like Wall Street to me on some days. I mean, this is an age-old story on Wall Street that it's the old boys club and women are not welcome, and unfortunately, there's still some evidence that happens to this day.
In another New York paper today, there was a story about Treasury Secretary Geithner being so confused with being a former Goldman professional, or at least a Wall Street professional, or a former investment banker, and none of those things are true. I think the confusion over his background has a lot to do with the perception that he is very linked or very connected, as you're saying, to Wall Street. But Michael Barr, who's the assistant, I guess, Treasury Secretary, who's also a candidate or a person that's being talked about for this. Again, he's pretty close to Secretary Geithner. And let's not forget, Treasury's not making this decision. This decision is going to be made by the White House. And I guess if I think Warren has done actually an outstanding job on our committee, so I'm a big fan. But there's nothing wrong with the debate on who should be advancing, I think. And I'm not so sure just because Geithner doesn't necessarily endorse, we should throw out the sexist card. But again, I don't know.
And again, it wasn't Mark of the New York Post. This was the National Organization for Women that threw out this. I mean, we need to be very clear.
Wall Street's
and I know he's a policy guy, by the way, and that I did read that other article.
Just Wall Street's decades-long legacy of the perception of sexism allows for this sort of a story to take place, because it has been, Wall Street has always been a bastion of guys, and here's Geithner coming out of the heart of that. So it's an easy allegation to make. Whether or not it's true, I think to Mark's point, I doubt specifically Timothy Geithner is a sexist himself, but the perception is still there.
Well, again, I did want to be clear again, Mark, that neither you nor the New York Post is making this assumption. It's coming from other sources. So.
And actually, there's no immediate appointment or announcement coming. So to the point, actually, this argument is getting heated, and it's pretty early.
It's a very important post.
Well, I have to say, Mark DeCamber, your best guess on this show was a few days ago was that Elizabeth Warren actually would get the nod from the Obama administration. And again, it is the president's decision, not the secretary. So
yeah, ultimately.
All right, Mark DeCamber, thank you very much for coming on the noon show. All right, folks, 4 months. James?
I guess I would ask, when you have an accident or of this monumental proportion, it is understandable that the pendulum is going to swing probably too far one way. And as Cheryl said, 6 months ago, President Obama was behind it. We have this truly a tragedy for the Gulf, and now the pendulum has swung. But before legislation takes effect, and you are speaking to the officials, don't you think it will become a little bit more balanced, and it will, I guess, kind of revert back to some sort of mean? I don't think someone's going to make a decision at the height of the crisis, or really when the fervor is at its max.
Well, you're absolutely right. You have to get some balance and some perspective in all of this. We have drilled over 40,000 wells successfully offshore in the Gulf of Mexico. We have 3,500 of them operating safely. We have a fantastic safety record. We did have this tragedy, and we are focused on it. And I don't think anyone cares more than the people who work in this industry about the safety, the viability of our operations. So And I hope some calmer heads prevail as we move forward. We want to make sure that we do have safe operations, but we also cannot afford as a nation to jeopardize the development of these resources because they are critical to our nation. The Gulf is giving us a third right now of the energy we produce. The deep water is going to only grow in importance to our nation's energy needs. We right now, as an industry, support over 9 million jobs, over 7.5% of the gross domestic product of this country. This is important to keep this industry strong, viable, and moving forward, and to keep these jobs on the table.
All right, Rayola Dewar, API Senior Economic Advisor, excuse me very much. Thank you very much, Rayola, for being on the show.
Thank you.
And love to have you back, because this topic is not going away. Neither is offshore drilling, probably.
Your travel volumes.
That's the head of American Airlines, Hunter, on the phone for you. But hold on, because James is here and he's got a question for you as well.
Yeah, just a question. The stated fares, the airfares that are coming out, it seems like there's almost an a la carte menu now. It's the fare, and then it's everything else that's going to get tacked on before you board the plane or before you get off the plane. Bags checked, upgrades, changes, and whatnot. So any comment on, yes, fares seem to be relatively inexpensive, but are they when you start tacking on everything that comes with jumping on a plane and going to one of these great destinations and enjoying a margarita, Tom, as you said?
Well, and Hunter, billions of dollars in revenues, as you know, that the airlines have all booked in the first and second quarters because of these extra fees, which customers hate, but they love.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. The customers really shouldn't hate it because a lot of these customers are subsidizing the minority of travelers who do check first and second bags, actually. So airlines unbundling these things like first bag fees, raising change fees, charging for blankets and pillows. This allows airlines to offer lower base fares, which the majority of leisure travelers take advantage of. So it's generally a good thing for the consumer. Look, there's a cost associated with transporting a bag, and airlines are finally charging the passengers for that. So on a net basis, a lot of passengers end up paying less than they would have had the product been bundled as has been years past. And that's another point that you make too. Not only is this very, very accretive on the revenue side, but it's very accretive on the earnings side. You're talking 85–90% operating margin revenue here that drops almost straight to the bottom line. So airlines have an incentive to put cheap fares out there on sale and charge the consumers for the ancillary initiatives, like I mentioned before, bags, even sodas, in some cases food. So there is a benefit that the consumer realizes here.
I guess I'd ask you, you mentioned this has not been done before of this magnitude, and there's no precedent. So what would be, I guess, how high is the bar set in terms of success, not success, and how much more or how often do you want to roll this out? I can imagine, well, I guess wasn't a fan of Lost or part of the cult. I certainly have my favorite TV shows, and are you going to be bringing some of these other things back, and I can get involved?
Okay, well, the thing is, yes, you can get involved. I mean, literally, you can just log on to www.profilesandhistory.com to register. We already have 47 countries involved in this sale and thousands of internet bidders that are already poised and ready to go. Now, the sale is a live sale. It's taking place at Barker Hangar here in Santa Monica, but Live Auctioneers, our partner in this process, is actually, it's going to be simulcast all over the globe. And people are going to be able to participate from Bangladesh or where have you. That's going to happen right there on the auction floor.
But it is best guess time. I'm going to start with Mr. Dunstan Pryall, star reporter. Welcome back from vacation.
Yeah, glad to be back. I'm going back down the shore tonight.
Oh, great. Okay.
Rumored these refinance programs that have been out there, they're talking about perhaps the Obama administration, blanket refinancing millions of troubled mortgages. And that would act as a sort of de facto stimulus. 50 to 60 billion in it would generate, they're talking about. I think even Bill Gross was supporting it earlier this week from PIMCO. My best guess is that it is not the de facto stimulus they're talking about. In fact, I did a story earlier this week for foxbusiness.com, the aforementioned foxbusiness.com, which I talked to some mortgage brokers and I talked to some real lending experts who say the mindset has completely shifted. People who are refinancing are not going out and spending it out there in the economy, blowing it on cars and vacations, whatever. They're pumping it into getting down their debt, whether it be their mortgage or student loan or whatever. So in the short term, that may not help the economy, but long term, it's better for
the average person
yes,
who's
it is. It really is.
almost lost their home. James, real quick.
Real quick, actually had thought about talking about some mortgages, but as a baseball fan and a Yankee fan, I can't help it. I'm thinking about Roger Clemens, and I'm thinking about perjury and indictments and lying to Congress. And Roger, my friend, you're going to do a little jail time, and that's my best guess. And the tale of two cities. Pettit, Clemens, Pettit admits it, owns up to it, and he's a hero for it, and Roger not so good. So
entire legacy and career.
No Hall of Fame, but maybe a little jail time.
All right, gentlemen, thanks to both of you for spending the hour with me this Friday. Well.